Right, hello. No amount of reboots or reshuffles can hide the truth. Johnson is finished. Now it's interesting how that's phrased, because that's phrased from a very victorious standpoint. I mean, they're definitely celebrating as if they've already won, or at least acting like they've already won. Personally, I don't believe he is. I don't believe he is. Boris isn't the man that would just leave. He's definitely going to wait until he's kicked. But I think a lot of people know that Boris Johnson is the only reason the Conservatives won. And I know a lot of Conservatives are turning around and jumping ship. Traitors, effectively, is what you can call them. They betrayed the people they voted for. They voted for them, sorry, and have betrayed the party. Oh, betrayed the party. Betrayed the Conservative Party. And as a result, the Conservatives are taking losses. But I feel like a lot of Conservatives, not parties actual, like genuine Conservatives, not Tories, have identified that Boris is the only way they can win. And it's unfortunate, it is, because Boris isn't really the best. He's not really the best. He has a terrible spine. He does just collapses every time the Labour Party tell him to do something. But it's interesting how they're talking, because they're talking as if they've already won. And you could say it's alarming. I don't think it is. I think it's because definitely if you talk as if you're already winning, then your opposition think to themselves, oh, have they? Have we already lost? So it could be a case of just trying to disenfranchise the opposition. But we'll see. I just chose this article because of the headline, to be honest. And I thought it was interesting how they're talking, how they're portraying it. The Prime Minister is good at creating distractions, but the parallels with Thatcher's 1990 downfall are clear to see. Looking back, oh, this is a long article. Right, we're not going to read the entire article. We're not going to read the entire one. We're just going to scan it. Looking back on the 1990 ousting of Margaret Thatcher as Conservative Prime Minister, her chief whip, Tim Renton, concluded that Thatcher had lost power because she had ceased having an open mind about how to unify her party or to govern. She only wanted to have her own friends around her, and she had to identify number 10, and the job, okay, right, number, there's supposed to be a full stop after the word NO for number. Terrible writing. Who is this? I'm not happy with it. Martin Kettle, you need to learn how to write better. Punctuation is highly important. And the job of Prime Minister with herself, wrote Renton, anyone who stood in her way was to be dispensed with. They were not of the right faith. Now, I find that interesting, because he included that quote. Now, that quote's main takeaway was not of the right faith. And that's a very big problem the left are seeing, as people aren't of the right faith and are thus rejected from the left. This is, of course, described as by Vosh, a well-known leftist who should not be letting your children, as a circular firing squad. And I feel it's interesting that he chose to include this quote, because it doesn't seem to be what Boris has. Boris doesn't really care about what people think. He cares about whether they're his pals. So the first quote was fair, but the second one was a bit weird to include. Boris Johnson is not in the same league as Thatcher as a successful Prime Minister and much else. She lasted 11 years in Downing Street and won 3 general elections. He has been Prime Minister for 2.5 years and has won just once. It was a good win, though. It was a really good win. I find it interesting how they're trying to downplay his achievements. And weirdly enough, upplay Thatcher's achievements. It's that thing. I can't quite remember what it was, but it was praising Hitler to own the Conservatives. I think it was. Well, at least Hitler could get XXX done. She possessed ideological conviction in spades. His only serious interest is in himself. Boris doesn't have conviction. We've known this for quite a while now. If the Labour Party tell him to do something, he'll do it. I mean, everybody saw that LGBT conservative flag. It was a nightmare. it's really hard to support him. Which is weird because you'd have thought like centre left would love him. You really would thought that. Though obviously the media keep bashing them over the head with back when he was good, those jokes he'd make. So that's probably why they don't like him. But if they took away those jokes, he would absolutely be supported by the centre left. Anyway, yet all the evidence from the so-called reboot of Johnson's government in the wake of the lockdown party scandals is that this Prime Minister is now making many of the same mistakes that Thatcher did more than a generation ago. Like her, Johnson surrounded himself with flatterers. Like her, he has come to identify the Conservative government with himself rather than the party or the electorate. Like her, he ostracises those who are not true believers. I've never seen that. Oh, which in this case means believers in him. Right, so that's not a good comparison. I'll give you some benefit of the doubt with the rest of them, but that's not a good comparison. There are, of course, some differences, yet the outcome will be the same. It would be hard to exaggerate the damage that Partygate has already done. Partygate, that's the first time I've heard of that. Because the parties had, it's hard because party and then the Conservative Party, it's very difficult to keep track, has already done it, Johnson. You can measure this in lots of ways. The drip of backbench and losing confidence, the most required so far ministerial resignation in department advisors, and in the bad headlines, another photograph emerged today showing Johnson at the December 2020 party with a bottle of champagne. See, the party is, everybody knows he went to the party. Everybody knows. And everybody knows he will not admit it. So the only reason I can see that the media would continue talking about it is to further damage his reputation. Otherwise, they're not really reporting on facts. If everyone knows something's true, there's no real point in reporting on it. And it's not as if they want him to admit it, because he'll never do that. Everybody knows he's stood his ground and he will not move from it. And we all know Boris isn't really the most honest man. It would be hard to. I've completely lost my place. Another photograph. Never forget that, lurking in the wings, there is potentially the most threatening factor of them all. The police investigation parties and number 10s. Again, NO should be a dot after that. False denials. But everybody knows it's going to happen. Everybody knows. I don't know why everyone's so bothered about that. I mean, we all know it happened. We all know why. We all know nothing's going to get done about it. Just move on. And there's probably more parties. I'm going to be honest. I do not think for a second we know all of the parties Boris has went to. Right? That man took cocaine but sneezed, so technically didn't take it. That man, right, has had so many sessions in his life, he can't go an hour without one. I mean, there's a big issue with drugs in the parliament. We all know that's all Boris. He's just been littering it around. So I don't know why everyone's... It's because we know he's done more parties. We just don't know when they were specifically. But of course, I've mentioned this prior. I don't know when. Keir Starmer also went to parties. He was seen, there was a picture going around of him with a cake. And the lass in the back... No, he had alcohol, and the lass in the background had cake. And then all of his supporters turned around and say, it was a business meeting, which was literally Boris's defence. But it's interesting how they're going for Boris, while the leader of the opposition has done the exact same thing. Anyway, that was a long tyrant. Yet the most important evidence of how bad things are becoming is already in plain sight in electorate results and opinion polls. Johnson's poll ratings today are truly dire. But the thing with poll ratings is, give it a month. If he stays out of the headlines for a month, they're just going to go back up. It's weird that though, isn't it? That it doesn't matter what a prime minister does. If he just waits a month without being in the headlines, everyone just sort of seems to forget. So it's one of those things where it'll probably increase. In early February, well, as long as the media don't go after him again, than they were recently as December, when the Conservatives suffered the humiliating loss of North Hampshire by-election with a swing of 34 to the Liberal Democrats. Oh, that is a bad loss. The thing with the Liberal Democrats is the woman in charge still refuses to define woman. According to Ipsos Mori polling, I don't know that one, 65% of voters in Britain were already dissatisfied with Johnson back in December. Today that figure stands at 70%, right? But I feel like with the restrictions being lifted, they're probably going to increase a bit more, though a lot of people are already very hostile towards them, though that could just be my area. This is a pretty Labour Party area, so could have biased results. Found just 14% of all the voters think Johnson is an honest person. Well, that's a bit unusual. Dissatisfaction. Wait, so was it a poll of dissatisfaction, or was it a poll of whether he's an honest person? Because he's not an honest person. Boris is not honest in the slightest. But that's different from dissatisfaction. Okay, I think they are two different statistics. Okay, fair enough. 72% think he's not. I don't think he is. Well, then, 18% say he is a prime minister that they can be proud of. It's interesting that more people say they're proud of him than think he's honest. He trails both Keir Starmer and Rishi Sunak on one leadership yardstick after another. Guardian articles are written terribly. Leadership yardstick? Just speak English, mate. This isn't back when the ruling elite were French. To be fair, that would actually explain a lot. These are polling and voting figures from which leaders do not come back. I disagree. I think Boris can definitely make a comeback. The Conservative donor John Armitage, I'm terrible with names, is right that Johnson has not just lost moral authority, as these polls complain, he has also lost his touch. But Johnson is also losing votes. The crunch moment is now the local elections on May 5th. On 5th of May. Why can't they just put TH after the 5? Half of these videos are just me complaining about the Guardian not being able to do proper grammar. In which the Tories are defending some previously strong performances when these seats were last contested, but in what is now a far more ominous political environment. Because the problem is now they're facing it's the three reasons why the Conservatives got a majority is Jeremy Corbyn, Brexit, and Boris Johnson. Two of those won't stand anymore. Obviously, Brexit happened. They messed that up massively. I don't know why they didn't just go for a no deal. Jeremy Corbyn, not in the Labour Party anymore, so they can't use that to their benefit anymore. And Boris Johnson's being attacked in the media every day, so he's really an unshaky line. So that's the problem they're dealing with. Their three strongest cards have all been effectively made futile. One of Johnson's senior advisors in number 10 was quoted in last Sunday's papers as saying he's making very clear that they'll have to send a Panzer division to get him out of there. Good man. This is one of the few things he's standing for, and I think he is important to keep because this is all going to fly by. This will all fly by, and Boris will be the new big man. I think he's just got to stick by his conservative roots. Just fight for get rid of the hate speech law. If he gets rid of that hate speech law, he's set. He is set for life. I'd say he'd be in there forever. And with Russia and Ukraine, if he acts like Winston Churchill, if he wins us that war, which I doubt he will, but if he does, on the slim chance, that would set his legacy. Imagine that. Boris Johnson humiliates Russia, scraps all human rights violations in this country. That would be an amazing thing. It doesn't matter what they could say. It would not matter. It doesn't matter what sessions he's been having. That would set him for life. And he just refuses to do it. These are simple solutions, and Boris just refuses to do it. I don't know why. These are polling... Actually, I've read that, haven't I? He's making very clear that they'll have to send a Panzer. This is recognisably the sort of overblown language of Boris. It's also a funny thing to say, nah, mate, I'm not getting out. I'll tell you what, you can send a Panzer to my house, right, and I'll not get out. Right, you'll have to get it out. You have to use force. And that's also a very good... And it's the thing, I did it unknowingly, but they'll have to send a Panzer division. That made me excited. Yeah, I read that and I thought, oh, go on there, Boris, mate. So I feel like that's also a massive strength Boris has. Just the way he says things is really encouraging. The language to hang on to his prime ministership, but it is also recognisable evidence of the state of denial about how the rule of politics and of real life tend to work. Last one. When Johnson has to go, it will not involve a tank division in, oh, I wish it would. No, I reckon it will. I reckon it will. Right? Even when his time ends, and then the next Prime Minister comes in, he's just going to stay there. Right? They're going to have to whip out the Royal Army. It would be glorious if it did. Tank division, it will happen for one of three reasons. Ooh. Because of law breaking, nobody cares. Nobody cares. All politicians break the law. It's nothing special. Nobody really cares about that. It's the hypocrisy people care about, not the fact that he's breaking the law. Electoral defeats or ministerial design, Sunak's in particular. Yeah, the party are kind of abandoning him. It's because the Conservatives aren't conservative. They're just there for the power, the money. The Conservative Party is dying. Not as quick as the Labour Party is, which I feel like could be beneficial, but we'll need to see. But I don't think law breaking at all. In my opinion, the three biggest threats he faces is the rising Labour voters, obviously with younger generations, the hypocrisy, and the media slander. I feel like those are the three biggest threats. Oh, actually, no, get rid of hypocrisy, because that wouldn't matter if the media weren't talking about it all the time. And replace that with not being a Conservative. Those are the three biggest problems Boris is facing, in my opinion. Or some mix of them. Johnson will try to brazen it out, but in the end, all routes will lead through the parliamentary party. Even if Johnson survives a vote of confidence, he will not be able to continue long. Thatcher won the first round in 1990, but the tide against her was too strong. The same would happen today. Right, and that's about it. Generally speaking, I find it interesting how they're talking of this as, back from the start of the video when I was talking, they're talking about this as if they've already won, as in, we've already defeated Boris. You could say it's a bit worrying that they're acting as if they've already won, since they do hold all of the power. And realistically, what power does the Prime Minister have if the media don't back him? But yeah, interesting thing. I would say the three biggest threats he faces is definitely the media, not being a Conservative. And I forgot the last one. Yeah, I forgot the third one. You can go back to the video. Right, that's about it. I've still not got an outro. So that's about it. Ta-ra.